Welcome to Tail Learn Code. Here there will be tales about software development, learning from each other, code to build solutions. And now your host, Chad Green.
Yeah, I froze up. Was my audio still coming through?
No, it got broken up.
Damn it! I was on such a tear.
You were doing really well, yeah.
So what was the last interesting thing I said? And don't say yesterday.
Well, no, you were talking about creating a language with JavaScript. I mean, creating a JavaScript language that was a foreign language, for another language. Boy, yeah. I can't even say what's in my head.
So I said, what would JavaScript look like if it had been created by the Romans?
Okay, yeah. And
so I translated the code and everything, and it was a really fun and interesting talk. And it's that love of linguistics that it kind of drives that. I've had other talks where those elements come out, just like I did the deep learning like a Viking talk last year at a lot of events, including Code PaLOUsa. And I start out with a little 10-minute lecture on where the Viking runes come from and why they look like English letters or Latin letters, really. And so those ideas creep in. Again, they're fun and interesting. And, taking Latin made learning Spanish easier. Mm-hmm. And studying Old English helps you understand Germanic languages better and why English is the way it is. And so I like pulling them apart and seeing how they came to be where they are today. And I think the thing I learned from studying those languages is probably that languages don't have, it's not like a bell goes off and one day it changes, right? Language is just a big gray smear over time. It's just small, it's like evolution. It's like small incremental changes that you notice happening after a while, but you don't in the midst of it. Like English has probably changed in our lifetimes in ways that we don't notice. Mm-hmm. But if we went back and listened to something, because you can hear this when you listen to like older recordings, like you listen to, FDR giving old radio shows where he's talking about, the bombing in Pearl Harbor. The language he uses is different from the language we'd use today. Yeah. And so it's just kind of interesting how you can see that evolve even in a lifetime. Code with Sean says, too much acceptance of slang. I'm not sure I agree with that. Because I think other things were accepted as slang 50 years ago or 100 years ago, and we didn't realize it, and now we just think they're words. So I think that slang is the mechanism by which language evolves, and I think that's okay. Well, ain't is a word. It's a contraction for am not. And it's misused.
See, sure enough, I still remember my 8th grade English teacher, because two of the things that we were not allowed to do, we were not allowed to use ain't, because that was never allowed, and we weren't allowed to use got.
Well, there is a weird thing that we do where we say I have got. Mm-hmm. I would say I've got, and it's sort of redundant. I say I have a shoe. You say I've got a shoe. Right. You're saying I have got a shoe. I think what's happening there is we're actually saying I have gotten a shoe, which does mean something, because then you're using have as the auxiliary verb thing that makes it the past perfect. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what we're doing, and then we've gotten rid of the en for gotten, and it's just got becomes the past participle. Sorry. Language lessons with Guy. Yeah.
Oh no. No, but like I said, it's funny how the 8th grade teacher is still stuck in my head. So if I start typing "got," I'm like, oh no, can't have that. Remove that. He was also really against contractions, and so I if you ever notice my writing, you won't see a whole lot of contractions in my writing.
Yeah. I actually haven't noticed that, but now I'm going to notice it every single time I read something you send. It helps with your non-existent code documentation. Yeah. Sorry, I'm really used to reading chat because I stream. So.
Oh no. But it's a good point, right? That's because that's part of your job.
It is.
Well, it's actually part of all our jobs, but that doesn't mean we all do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fair point. I actually, fun little thing. Back in the 90s, Wired magazine, but back when people still cared about Wired magazine. Does anyone read Wired anymore?
Is it still around?
I think it's still around.
No, I know it's still around.
But they had a little column called Jargon Watch, and I mailed in a euphemism for writing documentation. It was programming in Word. And they published it.
Cool.
That was my first publication. Was in Wired magazine in the Jargon Watch column.
Well, there you go. That's a pretty good first publication.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even know it happened until someone emailed me and congratulated me about it. It was kind of funny. When I'm writing, I tend to go with a real casual style, especially like blog posts and stuff like that. I tend to use a more casual style language, and I try to be a little more playful.
Right.
I wrote a blog post on scaling your systems for the Redis blog, and it was about how using Redis you can get crazy scale. That was basically the point of it, and advice on what you need to do to scale applications, which is basically don't have any state. Right. And we called it designing for the deluge. And I got to use the word, and I was so happy with this because it's a word you don't get to use in any other context. I got to use the word antediluvian. like before we had the deluge of stuff because everyone's stuck at home, and so everyone's using these online services.
Right.
And the world before that, before the deluge, was the antediluvian world. And it's like, normally you only ever get to use that word in like a Old Testament theological sense. Right. It's just an educated way of saying pre-flood. Yeah.
I would say it sounds more like a Scrabble word, except for that wouldn't be that many points, so it's not really a good Scrabble word.
Yeah. I don't know if there's enough letters in Scrabble to do that word.
Yeah. I'm not sure either. So, let's talk about your Code PaLOusa talks, because number one, I love your talks, right? For a lot of reasons. One, they're really good talks that you learn a lot from. Two, just the titles are just awesome, right? The first one we'll talk about, so your Dungeons, Dragons, and Graph databases. So I would never guess it. I guess you're into D&D. I never would guess that.
Yeah, just a little bit. It's the beard that gives it away, right?
Right.
Or maybe it's
the model sitting behind you, right? Yeah.
Maybe it's the giant die 20 I have in my hand.
Well, I was actually going for the model that's up on the shelf.
Back up there, yeah. Yeah, my little model castles and stuff. For all the tabletop games that I'm not playing right now.
Right.
But I'm a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons. Been playing it since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Been playing it as long as I've been writing code. So.
Right. Talk a little. I've actually seen you. I've seen a couple of your streams where you've been prepping that talk. I'm curious. So what are you going to be doing in that talk?
So the talk, like you said, is called Dungeons and Dragons and Graph Databases, and the main idea. This is what I do with my talks. This is my formula, which is working for me. I don't know if other people could steal it and make use of it too. If more power to them if they can. Is I come up with I do introductory talks with a fun theme, and then that fun theme gives me a good title, right? And so this particular talk is I'm going to show I'm going to model a dungeon with rooms and monsters and treasure, and I'm going to model it with a relational database and with a graph database, and ultimately I'm going to show how we build that up. And how we can query those databases using both relational, SQL, and using Cypher queries to query the graph database. And just to show how one is easier, that basically is sort of here's how it works in relational land, and here's why graph is better. It's not quite why, but I do highlight things that make graph better. And ultimately, I build up to the find the best path through the dungeon that optimizes for treasure and avoiding monsters, or find the best path that maximizes experience from attacking monsters, that sort of stuff. And so which doing that with a relational database, in a graph database, you're going to have a series of nodes that represent rooms, and they're going to be connected. This room leads to this room, leads to this room. And then the rooms will have nodes on them for whether they contain treasure or monsters. And so you can do a query to walk through that. In a relational database, you're going to have a rooms table. And to create those relationships between the rooms, you're going to have a room-to-room mapping table. Right. And I'm not even sure if you can write a SQL query that will do a pathing through that, because it's going to have to be n layers deep.
Yeah.
And SQL doesn't do that. Joins don't do that. And so
you'd have to do something like temp tables in there, and it'd be a mess.
Yeah, and so I'm still working on the last few slides of my talk, and so that slide's not done yet. Fear not, it will be ready for next week.
Well, I don't know anyone who doesn't have their slide, who doesn't have their slides ready.
Yeah, they're mostly
maybe someone in the chat,
Yeah.
I'm calling someone. I happen to know someone in the chat who does not have their slides ready.
Yeah. Well, I was originally going to give the talk first at Sci-Fi DevCon, but unfortunately Brian wasn't able to get enough people to attend the event, which I think is too bad, because it was such a fun. It was like a conference. Like, I do these weird themes for my talks,
right?
And this was a conference full of weird themed talks.
Exactly. I did not know. So that one got canceled. I did not know that. Yeah,
he just didn't have. He didn't get enough people signed up to register for it, and so he had to cancel it. And so I was going to have the talk ready for then, and then I'm like, was scrambling there, and it's like, okay, now's time, so I can scramble later. I call it being agile. I'm doing the tasks at the latest responsible moment. That's how I justify my procrastination. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I mean, sure. I mean, but I like your demo you're doing there. Not just because it's Dungeons and Dragons. Although I actually never did get into Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not sure why. Because
we can fix that.
Yeah, it is funny. So I mean, I'm of the right age, right? To been right there when I was big and everything. It's funny. The one I got into for a while was there was an RPG for James Bond.
Oh yeah,
and
I have that RPG.
I was playing that for quite some time. I remember I really got into that one, but I never got into many others. I don't know. Maybe
role playing in Her Majesty's Secret Service. Yeah. That was. It's on the shelf behind me. Actually, I got it back in the 80s, and I still have it.
I might have to find that again, because I mean I don't have that anymore. But what I really like about that is that's a perfect example where a graph database excels, right? The pattern matching. It's funny because I don't talk a whole lot about graphs, but I do talk quite a bit. Yeah. But
sorry, I'm looking at chat and kind of smiling at what Sean's been saying. I'm glad, by the way, Sean, to have provided you a means to justify your procrastination as well. So welcome to the club.
But I was just saying that I always remind people that I'm not here to tell you the graph databases are the solution to everything, because they're not. Because I've also seen where they fall apart. But no, that's cool. So your other talk, and I have to read this description because I love the title in and of itself, right? So, understanding probabilistic data structures with 112,092 UFO sightings. So not just 112,000, right? But 112,092.
That's how many I have.
No, I just love the fact that to the detail.
Yeah.
Many other people would have said 112,000 K, right? Left it there, right? But.
No, the 92 makes it funnier, right?
No, that's
the goal, right?
Right. No, again, going back to the, I love your titles, right? It's, I look forward every year to call for speakers just to see what titles, I'm going to get from you that year.
I think it probably makes, if conferences are doing sort of the double blind thing, it kind of makes
I know your sessions.
Yeah, it's like, that has Guy's name written all over it.
I mean, funny story, for a couple of years, we dropped this, but we've always done the double blind, right? But for a couple of years, we actually, one of the questions we would ask of reviewers, do you have an idea who this is by the session details?
Yeah.
Right. And it was done on purpose because, number one, once you're a speaker and you've been knowing a lot of people, you know what talks they're giving, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, I know that's so-and-so's talk. I know that's so-and-so's talk, right? I pretty much know if I see Dungeons and Dragons or, and exact numbers in there, or linguistics, that's probably coming from Guy.
I actually work really hard on my titles to get those funny titles. I feel like I do that for a couple reasons. One is, well, because obviously you're explaining why it works, right? You're a conference organizer, you like it, right? So that gets me in, right? Which is important. But also, it's the only thing that honestly anyone looks at when they're trying to decide what session they're going to.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's just like the news, right? Everyone just reads the headlines and no one reads the meat of the article to understand more of the truth,
right?
Or more clearly the truth. And so they just see the headline and then they run with it. And so people do that at conferences too. And so I work hard to make titles that explain both what the talk's going to be about, to set an expectation, and that are attention grabbing. And so understanding. I actually did a survey on probabilistic data structures to find out how well known they were, because I was thinking of calling it like improbabilistic data structures or something like that, and making a UFO reference in there.
Right.
But not enough people knew what they were in the first place to make a pun on the title, on the topic. And so, but I'll spend hours coming up with talk titles and just trying to revise it. And some of us just sitting there and just staring at the wall, waiting for that inspiration. Because I don't know how it works, right? You just sort of, when you're trying to think of something and you're just trying to gum it up from the void, right? Yeah. And then and you're working on it, but all you're really doing is just kind of like sitting there. I'm going to will this to pop into my brain, and eventually it does. And so I do spend a lot of time crafting my titles, and it's super valuable. And then I try to spend a fair amount of time crafting my abstracts as well, for similar reasons. I try to set a funny problem statement that ties back to the title, and then here's the solution to that problem, and then here's what you're going to learn in this talk about regarding that solution. And so that tends to be my formula for a talk. And so they're usually 3 paragraphs. Unfortunately, I tend to be long-winded about my abstracts, and so paring them down can be hard, because telling the joke sometimes takes a while. Right. So.
Although I gotta admit, I don't really remember your abstracts, but like I said, we don't read abstracts. We read the titles.
Exactly, right? Well, like my deep learning, like a Viking talk, my abstract started with, the Vikings came from the land of the ice and snow, from the midnight sun where the hot springs flow. And in addition to long ships and bad attitudes, they had a system of writing called the Younger Futhark. So I'm quoting Led Zeppelin, right?
Right.
And I'm sure there's some people that didn't catch that when they read the abstract, but there are others that did, and if enough people get the joke, it's worth it.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I've been working on that, trying to get more creative on my titles and my descriptions. I do have one talk that I'm actually giving in October about the Cosmos change feed.
Yeah,
and so the name of the session is changes, right? and the abstract actually starts off with something, and I don't remember exactly the word, but it was like David Bowie might not be able to trace his changes, but with the Cosmos change tracker, we know exactly what's going on, or something like that, right? So trying for that that same type of magic, but unfortunately, coronavirus happened, so I didn't get submitted anywhere before everything got canceled, right?
Yeah. I've actually got a really busy October coming up because a lot of conferences have gone virtual, and the cost of attending them now, like in time, is a lot lower. And so I'm working on another talk to add to my suite that I've submitted the abstract for. It's called Mystery Machine Learning. And the idea is that I'm going to take the script of Scooby-Doo, the Scooby-Doo movie, and build a model using a recurrent neural network to classify who said what line from the movie, and tell you whether it's Shaggy or Scooby or Velma or Daphne or whatever. And so that's going to be my next data sciencey talk.
Right. That sounds like fun.
I didn't have that abstract ready in time to submit to Code PaLOusa, but
it is
I think I only submitted 2 talks and you took them both, so I'm pleased with that.
Yeah, I can't remember. I was going to say, it is interesting. October does seem to be a month where things are picking back up.
Yeah.
Still virtual for obvious reasons.
I think there's reasons for that.
I know I've got like 3 or 4 already planned talks that I'm giving. Of course, well, one's a full day workshop on French time, so that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. That'll be fun. Yeah.
Well, the interesting part was they were like, yeah, so we, I forget, it was like the normal time is running from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. or something like that. And
yeah.
And then they were like, well, with your time difference, would it be better for us to do it starting at 11 and go 11 to 6? And of course, I'm sitting here like, it's either 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning. What difference does it make? Right? At that point. And so I told them, no, just keep it at your normal time. That way, the people who are, who it's intended to attend are, on a normal standard time that they would be attending.
Fortunately, the Marines taught you how to get up really early and function, right?
Yeah. Well, of course, well, that's the funny part. So the very first night you're at boot camp, you get a whole maybe 30 minutes of sleep.
Yeah.
And it's actually really interesting with the Marine Corps. It's actually interesting the studies they've done on sleep deprivation and what they do to you. Number one, trick about boot camp, and I learned this about 6 or 7 weeks in, was it's all a mental game. Right?
Yeah.
The whole thing. I mean, yeah, it's very physical also, but the real thing is it's all mental, right? So your first week in there, well, number one, they get you up at the crack of dawn, right? Take you, you go through MEPS, get your final processing. Then they take the airport, and then they get you the very last flight they can get you. So you're sitting in the airport for like 8 hours, right? Just with the whole thought of, oh my God, what did I just get myself into?
Yeah.
Right. Then of course you get the boot camp, and then it's really funny because when they get you in the bus, they're really nice and polite to you. The moment that bus stops, that's where you're complete trash, right?
Yeah.
And so that and you do so many things that first night, you have no idea what's going on. And then to include, you have to clean the restroom area that is spotless, but of course it's not spotless.
Not. Yeah.
And I won't say on public stream what they find, but there's something they find. Just think about it, room full of males, think of what they're going to find.
Yeah,
somehow they found that, right? No one's used the restroom, right? But but somehow that's what they found in the room, right? And then sure enough, that first night they get you to bed, and you're in bed just long enough to actually enter REM sleep, and then that's when they wake you up. And like I said, they've done the studies to figure out how long it takes for a whole a room full of 80 people to fall to enter REM sleep, and then they wake you up. And then the next night you get like an hour and a half of sleep. So it's purposely just enough to get one full REM cycle. Because they obviously they don't want you to die, right? But they want you to go through the stress. The funny part is your third full day you're there, you retake the ASVAB.
Oh yeah.
And the idea is, again, it's to stress you out, right? All of a sudden you're answering these questions. But here's where it gets really, the weird experience I had. So when I took the ASVAB originally, I got like 99 percentile, like basically the highest score you can get on it, right?
Yeah.
Which was interesting because I also apparently answered there's an electrical section, and I didn't know anything of but I somehow did well enough to even do well, to score that high on the thing. So when you retake it in boot camp, I again scored really well. Sorry, I was reading the chat.
Yeah.
But I scored really, really well, and then all of a sudden you get pulled aside, and there were like 5 of us in the whole company that were pulled aside, and all of a sudden they're being really nice to you again. and they're like, yeah, look, you all are, you scored really well. You actually have the option to change your job right here and now, right? What your Marine Corps job is going to be. The funny part was the jobs you had a choice from. So the first one was counterintelligence. Makes sense. You want someone smart for counterintelligence.
Yeah.
Right. But then the other jobs were protection duty at Camp David and White House duty. So basically the Marines that you see standing, behind the president all the time. And I just sat there. Here I am in this room thinking about, wait a second, I got to be really smart to take a bullet for the president? That doesn't make sense to me.
Maybe their thought is you just got to be smart to keep your mouth shut about the things you hear the president say.
I think maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure, right? But so they do that. They talk to you as a group, and then you talk individually. And then as I'm talking to them individually, this person's looking at me. It's like, oh, well, you don't qualify for the protection details because you have to be a certain size, right? It's a 2-inch variance, right? Because again, the Marines are supposed to blend in. Right, so they don't want any variance on those. All right, that's fine. And for those who don't know, I'm a whole 5'6", right? I'm a short little guy, which means I never get spotted in a crowd, which is a good thing. I blend in.
I always get spotted in a crowd.
Exactly. But then here's where it gets even funnier. So then they're like, oh, so we have counter intel. Oh, but wait a second. So you have a girlfriend that's originally from Hungary. Yeah, that might be a problem. I'm sitting here like, how in the world do you know that? They'd already done they already started background checks on you. They already knew that much about us. So that was a little bit freaky.
That is a little weird, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I went in 90, so it was right after the Cold War. So, there were still a lot of Cold War thoughts.
Yeah.
Hence your girlfriend was born in Hungary. Well, we're not so sure about that, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's a cool experience.
Yeah.
And so then you obviously didn't do any of those side things. And
No, I didn't actually do what I signed up to do, which that's a whole nother funny part. I was supposed to be a legal clerk, right? Because, so when I was in high school, I was really thinking about being a lawyer.
Yeah.
And, which was funny because I was doing programming the whole time. I guess maybe I would have been who knows, maybe I would have done like software IP law or something, right? But I was really interested in that, and so I was going to do law in the military. But remember 90, that's when Desert Storm started. Well, Desert Shield was still there.
Yeah.
I was actually in boot camp as we were mobilizing out to Desert Shield. And turns out, if there's a wartime declared, they actually can change your job. But they do have to keep it within a range, right? So basically, I had to be kept within admin range, administrative. And basically, what it boiled down to is they didn't need more legal clerks at that time. And so what my job was aircraft administration. But here's the thing. You're out. Back when I was going through, you went through boot camp, you went on leave, you came back, and what we then called fourth phase of boot camp. That's not officially what it was called, but combat training.
Yeah.
And so you're out in the field, and then all of a sudden, this Marine who doesn't know, they're grunts, right? But they're reading off all your MOS numbers, right? And so they, green 6046. I had no idea what 6046 was. All I knew, I was supposed to be 44 or something. I forgot the end number, right? And but in boot camp, you learned and memorized all the MOS numbers, right? The first two numbers. And so all I knew was aircraft maintenance. And I was like, wait a second, you don't want me to maintain the aircraft. That's the worst thing you want me to do.
Yeah.
So I went for almost a week not knowing what my job actually was. Because our instructors, they didn't know. They're like, I don't know, you ask us in an infantry MOS, we'll tell you exactly what it is, but we don't know any of the other ones.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So basically, I did paperwork for aircraft for 4 years.
There were worse jobs. My cousin was actually sent to Iraq during Desert Shield. He's just like, I think he signed up in 82 or 88. I mean, so he was like, before it was announced, he called his mom, says, "I'm leaving," and he got in trouble for it. But so, but yeah, I wasn't in the military at all. I just went straight to college and straight to career. And I don't know. I've had people tell me that I would have liked it. I think I probably would have hated it personally.
Well, like I say, again, part of the thing is realizing boot camp that it's a mental thing, right?
Well, and that would have pissed me off.
Well, it was interesting when I made that realization. I mean, I remember this vividly. When I made that realization, boot camp became so much easier, right?
That makes sense. It would, yeah.
And I do think, and I mean, I'm not, this is not me praising myself, but I do think boot camp is harder on smarter people. Because we listen to this kind of stuff like, why would I do that, right?
Yeah.
You're putting too much logic behind some things, right? And I think that was part of my problem, right? I was having a very hard time, and of course, Marine Corps boot camp is 13 weeks long. It's a long boot camp.
Yeah.
That's why it was 6 or 7 weeks in when I realized it. I mean, just to put that in perspective, the Army boot camp's 8 weeks, right? So if it took me 6 or 7 weeks, I've been almost done. We were only exactly, Sean. We overanalyze things, right?
Yeah, we do.
That's exactly. I mean, why would I do that? That sounds stupid. Like I said, you got to be smart to be to take a bullet for the president. That doesn't make sense to me, right? I'm overanalyzing it, right?
Yeah. That why bit's really interesting though, because if you're managing developers in general, I mean, this is valuable in general. And it was something that always frustrated me as a kid was people wouldn't tell me why; they just tell me to do things.
Right.
And if you tell people why, all of a sudden the stupid thing it's like, yeah, I know this sucks, but this is why we need to do this, and this is the context. Lots of times they're on board all of a sudden. It's like, okay, yeah, I understand why we're doing this, and yeah, I don't like this either, but I can get behind trying to accomplish this. I'm going to move towards achieving this outcome because that outcome is the why. But when you do tasks without context,
right. No, exactly,
it's so frustrating. And I mean, I had a brief stint as an engineering manager, and that was always my strategy. Was I would try to explain why, and sometimes that why was the people above me are doing things, right? Mm-hmm. Which I'm not exactly sure what their goal is, but this is how I'm trying to manage it, and so this is what I need you to do. But that why thing is super important. It's actually sort of what drives me in general. Mm-hmm. Like Sean says, we tend to overanalyze. And the understanding why of the world. That's why I study linguistics, and that's why I like history, and that's why I like science and technology as a kid, is I wanted to know why things were the way they were and how do they work and understand them. So I think that's that's one of the things that I think is just really useful to do. And you're dealing with people, always explain why, because not everyone wants to know, but most people want to know.
Especially developer. I mean, that is definitely a trait that you find in developers. Because still being a manager, that's usually what I get more of. Not the how. It's why are we doing this, right?
Yeah. Sean's got a comment on this that is interesting because he's kind of talking about the, when you're teaching self-defense, you don't tell them why initially. You just tell them what to do. Mm-hmm. And there's actually wisdom in that as well, because that's the Dreyfus learning model. Like at level 1 in the Dreyfus learning model, I can't remember all the steps, but basically it's level 1 is these are the rules and this is what you do. Don't think. And then as you progress through the levels, you start learning when you can break the rules. And so it's sort of like you've got rules and you've got principles. And the rules are the things that you can tell you in this situation do X, and so you can react, right? But the principles are the things that tell you when it's okay to break the rules. And so the principles, like they're really, you get a certain level, there aren't actually rules, there's just principles, and rules are just a sort of a simplification of a principle. Right. And when you're learning skills, you sometimes have to learn the rules before you have enough context to understand the principles. So there is a place for saying, well, there is a why, but if I tell it to you right now, it's going to confuse you. Mm-hmm. But in some ways, that's a why. It's like, why aren't you telling me why? Well, because if I tell you, it'll confuse you. So I'm asking you to trust me. Right. And so even that's providing a why that can provide a degree of satisfaction in those situations.
Well, it's funny. Sean's comment reminded me of Karate Kid, right?
Yeah.
Because I love the whole, when he finally orders, and then it's like, Miyagi's like, sand the floor. He starts bending down. No.
I learned to eat before I learned why I ate. I knew why I ate, because I was hungry, and eating made it go away. That's why I ate. I'm do you eat to live or live to eat? Well, both,
Yeah. Yeah, I know that sentiment well.
Yeah. Actually, I've been on a diet lately. I've been losing weight. I've been doing keto.
Oh, cool.
I've lost 25 pounds so far. So.
Well, awesome. That's great to hear.
So it's a healthy rate of weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not too bad because there's like when you go on a diet, it's like there's no joy in any food that you consume. Right? But when you go on keto, it's like, well, there's certain ththings that I really enjoy that I can't have.
Right.
Like I can't have ice cream. Brownies are pretty much off the table. Garlic bread. Things like that you can't have. But I can still have 15 wings, which is pretty satisfying. So it's like I've still got plenty of things I can really enjoy, but then there's things that I can't. And of course I can't eat a dozen wings for every meal and lose weight. That still won't work on keto.
Right. Yeah.
I can't eat bacon wrapped avocados every meal and expect to lose weight. That's just not going to happen. But you can have those and still get some enjoyment. And yes, Sean, whiskey is keto friendly because there aren't any carbs in it. So
otherwise, Carl Franklin would have died a long time ago.
Yeah. So yes, whiskey. Now beer is off the table. Red wine seems to be okay. It's a little bit high, but it's doable. But I'm just sticking with whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I haven't had any whiskey since they started. I'm told that alcohol tends to hit your head faster when you started keto and you haven't had anything to drink for a while.
Right.
But I'm gonna have to get a bottle of whiskey because I'm out and discover that for myself. So.
Well, it's a shame. Normally you'd be able to come to the home of whiskey, or the best whiskey there is, right? Not whiskey. Home of whiskey is Scotland, but
yeah, home of bourbon.
But the good whiskey is here in Kentucky.
Home of my whiskey of choice. Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. I was so last year. I'm a Maker Mark ambassador. Yeah. And last year my barrel matured, so we went to there and everything, and we were doing the tour, and it was kind of funny. I'd done the tour a couple times, but on this one, the guy mentioned, he was like, it's he said if you actually happen to enjoy a Scotch whiskey, you might as well drink bourbon anyways because they're just using the bourbon barrels. He's like, so why go through the extra trouble? Just get bourbon. Yeah,
just get bourbon. Yeah. Well, and when I speak at events in Europe, I like to take a bottle of bourbon with me because it's a lot more expensive over there, and we've got bourbons here that they just don't have access to. Yeah. And I usually take a bottle of Basil Hayden.
Mm-hmm.
His Bushmill's good.
Yeah, so we do a lot of cruises. Obviously not right now, but on the cruise ships they have their duty free shops and to include plenty of alcohol. And I usually go in there more than anything else because I want to look at what bourbons they have. All right.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I was in there and I was looking at the bourbons, which they never really have a good selection. But guy comes over to me and says, "Oh, you're not gonna be able to find a better price back home." I'm like, "Yeah, I can." He's like, "No, not in these bourbons." I'm like, "Yeah, I can." He's like, "Not when you add alcohol tax." I'm like, "We don't have alcohol tax."
Kentucky's a great place. I love Kentucky.
He was like, "Wait a second, where are you from?" I'm like, "I'm from Kentucky, right? We make all the stuff there." Yeah. So one, I pay less for the alcohol to begin with, and two, it's just sales tax, right?
Yeah. I always sort of look at Kentucky a little bit and think, because the cigarette tax is cheap too.
Yep.
And it's like, and so, and Kentucky's, known for growing tobacco and it's known for its bourbon. And it's like the state of Kentucky said, you don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Yep. Well, and in horse racing, right? I mean, it's I always talk about Kentucky's just full of it's the vice state, right? It's horse racing, bourbon, and and tobacco, right?
It's the vice without the Vegas.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, well, and politically, definitely without the Vegas, because the one thing we do not have here in Kentucky is casinos.
Yeah, but you can come into Ohio for that.
Well, you go right across the river to Ohio's. Well, you can't go right across Ohio, the border, because there's nothing in the Cincinnati area as far as casinos. But we have there's two over in Indiana that are fairly close to the two big cities in Kentucky. But
I thought there was a riverboat casino in Cincinnati. I know there's like 3 or 4 in Ohio. There's one here in Columbus.
Maybe there is. But I'm not. Like I said, the ones I know, there's one right across the river here in Louisville, and then there's one in it's Belterra. I forget what this Indiana city it is, but it's literally across the river. And it's pretty close from the northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area. Yeah.
So, Sean, you said Elijah Craig, good. Maker Smart, good. Old Forester Rye, I like that too, actually. So.
Yeah, I mean, I usually stick away from the ryes. Now we turn into the bourbon hour.
Yeah.
Which is fine by me, right? Perfectly fine by me. Other than I don't have the family safe tag on, but I do try to stay family safe. If you're under 18, if you're under 21, yeah, that's the legal drinking age. 21, right? Or is it 18?
It's 21 here in the U.S. Although, interestingly enough, different states have laws about that. So, like in Ohio, as a parent, it's my prerogative as to whether my children can have alcohol at any age. There's no limit.
Well,
and so my children have all had bourbon and beer and wine and all of those things because, quite frankly, I'd rather they learn how to drink alcohol before they go off to college and be on their own and do it wrong.
Well, I would just say Ohio is an interesting state when it comes to alcohol laws. It's also in Ohio. It is not for a minor. It's not illegal to possess alcohol. It's just illegal for them to purchase it. So if they somehow possess it, then they're all good.
I'm not sure about that one. I haven't run into that particular detail, but
so I only know this because my daughter went to Dayton, and
it happened.
Dayton happens to be like one of the biggest party schools in the world, I think.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good school, but they really know how to party there also.
Yeah.
And I found this out because so campus police there, right? They monitor very well, but they won't stop you from drinking as long as you're behaving yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because basically the state law kind of gives them leeway to just let it go.
Yeah. Now, if you buy alcohol for a minor, that's also against the law.
Yes, but somehow, if somehow this minor somehow gets a hold of it, then we're good.
I guess so.
Now the ways how they get a hold of it is illegal, right?
Yeah. Well, unless in my scenario, I bought it for my children.
Right.
And then that would be legal.
Right.
So. And so, I actually think that we should raise the driving age to 18 and lower the drinking age to 16 and be done with it. Because I think it's more important to understand how to drink than it is before you drive, not after.
Well,
and honestly, I think learning how to handle alcohol is not nearly as impactful to your life. Mm-hmm. Like alcohol is less dangerous than an automobile. And so I worry about kids learning to drive. That's it's like, I'm 16, I'm invulnerable. Let's get behind the wheel of a car.
Well, of course, the funny part is, alcohol laws in the United States, it's because of because of the way how the country got started with the Puritans, right? It's more Puritan laws than it is anything else.
And Prohibition didn't help either.
That was the whole weird thing, of course, the other funny thing that most people don't realize about Kentucky, the state itself is dry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So most of the state, and I stated that incorrectly. The state itself is not dry. 99% of the counties are dry. There's only like Actually, it has been the rules have been kind of been slacking down, but for most of my life there were only 3 counties in the whole state that you could drink. Jefferson County, which is where Louisville, Canton County, which is right there along the Cincinnati border, and then Fayette County, which is where Lexington is. That was the only ones you could actually you were allowed to drink. And that has been, like I say, there's more and more counties that are going damp, right? The whole the bar and that type of stuff.
Because I guarantee you, people are drinking in all those other counties.
Oh yeah, but any county where the bourbon's made is completely dry. Well, again, legally completely dry.
Yeah.
So,
and that's just hysterical.
Well, it again. Now, those are dry because of corruption reasons. And they basically found when there was too much corruption, so they made them dry, which probably just added to the corruption levels. But
yeah, the people are being corrupt in the production of this substance. Let's make it illegal. That will help with corruption.
yeah. But yeah. So the funny part is if you go along the bourbon trail, you could drink as long as you're at the distilleries, but you can only drink samples.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get plenty enough samples to get a nice little buzz going on.
Oh, that's a really big sample. Yeah, well, we got to make sure you really taste it.
Oh no, trust me, the samples are tiny. I don't. They do give you very, very small quantities in those samples. Of course, now the other funny part is, so if you go to a distillery, you're only allowed to buy so much. There's and it's not distillery laws, rules. It's the laws. And like I said, when I went there last year, I went with a group of people, right? Brought some friends with mine and everything, and so there ended up being, there must have been probably 8 adults that were with me. And so when you go there, when your barrel matures and you go check in, then you tell them, hey, I'm an ambassador, my barrel's matured, and then they'll ask you right then and there, how many bottles do you want from your barrel? Because they have to prep them, right? Because they print them with a special label. It's got your name and your master number on it and all that kind of stuff. And so of course, Sean's like, oh, well, so sure enough, my question was, well, how many am I actually allowed to buy? Right? Yeah. And the guy looked and he's like, well, as many adults as you got with you, you don't really have a limit, So I bought 2 cases worth, right? And I have just less than a case left, right?
Yeah.
And let me know, I have not drank all that bourbon. They actually make really nice gifts.
Oh yeah, they do make good gifts.
Because again, they get your names on them, your master numbers on them.
Well, and it turns out there's a pandemic, and so everyone's staying home. So having all that booze stock's been probably kind of useful.
So the funny thing is, I actually don't drink much when I'm at home.
Yeah.
And some of it is I end up working late at night, and bourbon makes me tired eventually. If I drink enough, it makes me tired. So I generally just don't drink a whole lot when I'm at home. Which is so funny because when I go to conferences, I make up for it, right? But
yeah, don't we all? Yeah.
And the funny thing, I still stay up as late.
I meant, is my boss listening? I meant I'd never drink at conferences, sir.
Right.
Cool. So we've talked about bourbon and language, and we didn't talk about probabilistic data structures, but that's probably okay. I'll say that they're cool, and you should check the talk out. And I get deep into how they function. So it's looking at the algorithms, and that'll and we can come to the talk and find out more about that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've careened all over Hell's Half Acre, haven't we?
Which is great.
It careen all over Hell's Half Acre or not, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, that's how they should be, right? They should be more open. So I mean, sure. I do. We should probably wrap up because probably eventually I have to get back to work.
Yeah, no, I was checking my calendar to make sure I don't have anything because we've run a little bit over, and I'm fine with that. It looks like I don't have anything. Oh, my calendar wants to reload. I don't have anything until 2, so I think we're good.
I actually don't have anything until 2 either, but you know.
But I also need to eat lunch.
I was supposed to say, but I do need to eat because I haven't eaten yet today.
Same here. Well, I had a small bowl of olives before.
Well, okay, I had a couple of pieces of cantaloupe.
Yeah.
So, which I'll probably get in trouble for because it was my wife's cantaloupe.
You could just give her a bottle of bourbon to make up for it, and it'll be fine.
It's so funny. My daughter turned 21, and of course. So I planned this for a while, right? When my daughter turned 21, I'm like, all right, I'm going to take you out for your first drink. All right.
Yeah.
And sure enough, she actually didn't drink until she turned 21. I mean, she's a little bit too much of a goody two shoes at times.
Yeah.
But, so I took her out and took her out to my favorite bourbon bar, which, let it be known, is no longer my favorite bourbon bar because they completely changed it. But, so down one, right? I'm sure you've been there.
Yeah.
Because almost every Code PaLOusa speaker has been there.
Yeah, I have been there. It's down. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not what it used to be, but this is when it still was, right? And because I mean it's just in the last year that down one has gone down. So I took her out there, and you know, I'm like, oh, I want you to, you know, here's a drink I want you to have, and all that kind of stuff, and she liked the drink because I mean it was heavily mixed. But when I had her try just regular bourbon, she's like, oh my god, what is that? She did not like it. And to this day, she does not like bourbon.
My 19-year-old son loves bourbon.
Yeah.
He's out on his own now, living with a bunch of guys, and he's like, oh, I had some barrel strength the other day. It's like, did you like it? He's like, it was good, but it was strong. So,
well, you have to try to get some time is the white bourbon, which is basically pure.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I tried to do with my kids was I also tried to give them a taste for quality alcohol.
Yeah.
Because I thought it's like, well, if they get used to drinking good beer, then they're just not going to be willing to drink the Natty Light from the keg, because it's just not going to be worth it to them. So that's part of the thinking there as well. And it seems like it's worked. It looks like I had a Budweiser. It was awful.
Well, that was part of my thinking also, right? Why I took her out for her first drink. I'm like, well, I'm going to teach you how to drink good stuff, right? Because I don't drink that. Well, I got to admit, I don't mind a Miller Lite, right? I'll drink Miller Lite if it's available, right? But I generally drink much better stuff, right?
Yeah.
Now I think it's kind of backfired me because she still doesn't really drink much good stuff. And what I didn't know until I was out with her one night, apparently you get a margarita with sugar. I never even knew that was a thing.
Yeah.
And she ordered that one time, and like, and of course I'm like, well, of course you did, right?
Yeah. I'm with you with the Coors Light or the Miller Lite. I'll drink a Coors Light sometimes. Mm-hmm. I'll drink a Coors Light if I'm thirsty, but I'll drink something else if I want a beer.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's well, I mean, it's to the point, you know. And again, you know, if I'm out with people and you know, they're more blue collar and that's what they drink, then it's so funny because they think that I'm gonna be more snotty about it. You know, like, you know, where's my craft beer or whatever. I'm like, yeah, craft beer is really good, but you know, beer is beer, right? Yeah.
So, Sean, the only time I drink Coors actually is when I drive all the way to Texarkana and get it and bring it back to Atlanta. Yep. But, you know, they wrote a song about it. You should check it out sometime.
In 14 hours, right?
Yeah. We're going to do what they say can't be done.
God.
And on that note...
Well, actually, I was just thinking, like, you know, I've not seen that movie in a long time. I have to find out if that's available.
I actually watched it shortly after Burt Reynolds passed away.
I think I did too. Now you say that, I think I did too. The one movie I can't find from that era, I can't find Cannonball Run.
I'm sure it's out there.
You can find Cannonball Run 2, but you cannot find Cannonball Run. At least on the streaming services.
Yeah.
You know,
I wonder if maybe there's licensing issues with the music or something.
I don't know. But I mean, I love this because again, it's just a stupid, silly movie, right?
Yeah.
But I did. I mean, like 2 or 3 months ago, I watched Cannonball Run 2 because again, that was the only one I could find.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It might be for sale on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it was even for sale because I don't think I could find it all.
Because I picked up Heavy Metal recently on Amazon Prime for it actually wasn't very expensive.
Well, there's another movie I haven't heard of in a long time.
Yeah. And it wasn't you couldn't rent it, but it was only like $7. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I remember when
it was a fun little blast from the past.
I remember when I first saw Heavy Metal. That was not what I was expecting.
Yeah, I had forgotten. Its more R-rated content was quite so prolific.
Well, I mean, so I saw it when I was in like my 20s, right? So so I was prime target for it, right? Oh, okay. Apparently, Sean has found.
Oh, cool. I saw it when I was like 16.
It is not you have to buy the video. I can get it on DVD or Blu-ray.
Oh, okay.
So now, sure enough, and apparently I can still get it on VHS.
Wow.
Actually, I do still have a VHS player. I don't know if it still works, but
yeah, I don't have mine anymore. I gave it to someone for scrap parts.
Now the interesting part is the DVD is $509, the Blu-ray is $25. Why would I bother with the Blu-ray?
Yeah, it's not like you're gonna get more resolution.
Yeah, exactly. No, wait, no, here's another Cannonball Run. I'm just curious. Oh, here's another Cannonball Run. The DVD is $10.80, right? I mean, why?
Yeah.
I might have to get it. It's I don't know. It's funny. So one of the things you could do on with Twitch, you can actually do watch parties.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking about it, like after Code PaLOusa, once I got all that out of my system, I've been thinking about doing that, right? And doing stupid movies like this, right? Or doing really geeky movies.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. You ever watch the movie The Gamers?
I don't know if I know that one.
You probably haven't. It was kind of obscure. It's the story of a group of guys playing D&D in their dorm basement. And while they're playing D&D, they keep cutting to scenes of what the characters are doing in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hysterical, especially if you play D&D at the table. You as a player always do inane things that doesn't make sense that the character would do,
right.
And so they act them out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. It's not very long. It's a little bit of a cult following. There's the one person that keeps not showing up, and so they just got the actor standing in the D&D game. He's just standing off in the corner in the middle of combat, not watching anyone, not interacting with anyone. Everyone's just walking around him and avoiding him in combat because the player is not present. So he's just kind of standing there.
Mm-hmm.
Or every now and then, oh yeah, so and so's here, and then he'll show up in the scene abruptly. So yeah, it's a good gag. That'd be a geeky one to do on stream. And I did on Discord not that long ago. We did Jackbox Games. We did the murder mystery trivia thing. I can't.
Apparently, the Gamers is not available, at least on streaming that IMDb points out.
Yeah, it probably isn't. I have the DVD that I bought.
So I mean, the one thing about
my
this
friendly local gaming store.
so the one thing you do have to do for the watch party, it has to be something that's on Amazon Prime.
Okay, that would make sense because it's Twitch. Yeah.
Right. Well, also it's for copyright protection.
So, well, I mean, because Twitch is owned by Amazon, and
right.
So they'd be okay with it. So
and I believe everyone watching has to be a Prime member.
Well, that's like everyone, right? So
yeah, I mean that doesn't really restrict you that much. It's
yeah, we should do a post Code PaLOusa watch party. I think that'd be fun.
Like I said, I've been thinking about doing it. It's just of course now I've actually said in the stream, so now I actually have to do it.
You're committed.
Yep.
Please suggest movies that we should watch for the Tail Learn Code watch party post Code PaLOusa. Put them on Twitter with hashtag Tail Learn Code watch party.
There you go. I love it. I got my hype man here now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sure enough, let's do right because it is getting up to 1 o'clock, and
yeah.
I think both of us want to eat.
Yes, I do. I don't know what I'm going to eat, but I'm going to definitely eat some food.
I'm actually in the same boat. Well, so any closing thoughts that you have?
No, just that I'm looking forward to Code PaLOusa. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm glad that the talk's going to be live. Well, at least mine. I'm assuming mine's live. I haven't recorded anything yet.
Yes,
Good God, I hope
they're all.
But because there's something a little extra to doing it live. I've done some pre-recorded events, and those are fine. But then there's that compulsion to go in and edit.
Right.
So I'm just thankful that you're running a live conference, and I, of course, encourage everyone to come out to the conference and watch it, and of course to come watch all my talks because they'll be the best.
Of course.
But there's going to be a lot of other great speakers too. So those are sort of my closing thoughts. Is just more of a thanks for giving me again an opportunity to speak at your event. I always appreciate it.
No, as always,
and,
thank you.
I wish I could come to Louisville and do it in person because I love visiting Louisville. Yeah. So I guess my closing thoughts are thanks, Chad.
Well, thank you. No, really. I thank all the speakers, right? Especially I give it, speakers who stuck it out this year, right? Because it's understandable. I mean, I've had a couple who've dropped out since, and it's understandable, right? I mean, this is a tough year, right? And I do really appreciate that.
Well, some people don't really like the streaming talks, and they're not as engaging. It's just harder to engage.
No, exactly. No,
I get it.
That's why I say I didn't hold it against anyone. I mean, I've had a couple who drop out for different reasons, right? And to include that, right? And I completely understand, right? It is a different situation.
Yeah. So we got to play gear. Yeah, we'll roll with it.
Awesome. All right, let me look for someone to raid real quick.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Before everyone drops off as we wind down the conversation.
Yeah. Although I'm also I don't know what it is, but my stream manager has been crappy for rating.
Yeah, I've just been going to twitch.tv/livecoders or team/livecoders and finding a live coder and rating them.
Well, so the problem I've been having is like it doesn't even tell me all the people who I follow who are currently on.
Well, that's why I do that instead. Because it's doing the same to me too.
Well, yeah. So here we'll go to Code Rush. So
oh yeah, he's fun.
Irrelevant stream to another irrelevant stream, right? But he actually gets work done.
Crazy. Well, for me, I'm a developer advocate. I am working.
Well, yes, there you go. Exactly.
This is my job, right?
Well, despite what people think, this is not my job. I actually do something completely different. All right, with that, I really do appreciate everyone joining us today. We'll be back on tomorrow, 11:30. I don't know what we'll be doing, but we'll be doing something tomorrow.
We'll definitely be talking to someone. So.
Not tomorrow. Tomorrow is a normal coding day.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll definitely be writing code then.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, we might be working slides. So,
welcome, Sean.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
See ya.